Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. So when you see the picture of the family on the screen, I'm not trying to single them out. No offense to that group of people, but I need to kind of make it clear to you how things work. Why do I have a playlist about Freemasons, and Gangstalking, and I talk about TikTok? Because on TikTok, I told them, hey, if you keep cracking down on me, if you don't accept my appeal on the video, which basically wasn't breaking the rules, I go out of my way to not break the rules on TikTok. They're hypersensitive in regards to my videos, trying to tell me what to say and what not to say, subtly and otherwise. So I said, hey, if you keep doing that, I'm going to go on YouTube. I'm going to make a 10-part series about TikTok and Freemasonry. And so that's what I'm doing. And so, when it comes to the governing class, it's clear that they're pulling the strings of the Masons. The Masons are meddling, and there's other groups meddling behind the scenes as well. So let me talk about five key disagreements I have with the governing class, and there's a lot more than this, but these are some of the key ones. 1, is there a dark, angry snake spirit in the most pronounced white spirits that are opposing morally precise change? So does a spirit exist, right? Does a school spirit exist? Does the spirit of God? What have you? So we disagree about whether this is the logical assumption to the point where you can say it without them holding it against you. For example, if I said that there's a bunch of evil spirited white people giving me a hard time, they might say, it sounds like you need your medication. You see what I'm saying? Instead of acknowledging that that's a logical assumption and that it's fair to say. Okay. Point number 2, there's a long-standing disagreement in regards to the root causes of poverty and the percentage of people that are poor with mental disorders. Okay. Also, how stupid the average poor people are and why. These things have implications on the social order, and that complicates the disagreement. So in other words, we don't agree on whether all the poor are basically mentally ill or, how stupid they are. Okay? They're basically like, hey, if you don't work, you don't eat, and these people aren't the smartest in the batch, and that's why they're poor. Hey, some poor people aren't that smart. Some poor people do have a mental disorder. We disagree in regards to whether financial success equals intelligence, etc. And you can tell by their actions and my actions, right? These are action-based disagreements first and foremost. Point number 3, a disagreement in regards to the government making someone disorganized with psychological operations, then saying to leave it to them and their puppets. So they say, hey, if you have trouble organizing yourself and you have trouble speaking, well, maybe you should magically leave it to us, right? And that's wrong. I'm the one person telling the truth. I'm the true leader of all of humanity. We disagree whether that's a sound argument to make. And that's part of why they keep harassing me every day. They're like, hey, if you don't like it, you can always conform. We'll leave you alone when you conform, and da-da-da-da-da. And of course, it's pure evil to conform. 9 million people starve to death every year. That's 25,000 every day or so. And, 1/3 of that, 1/3 of those are children. And there's other problems as well. Point number 4. Okay. A disagreement in regards to what causes rape. Okay, what is good dating judgment? And the root causes of criminal behavior. So you might say, hey, well, how does this have to do with, what does this have to do with the picture on the screen? Okay, well, that family is, they're billionaires, right? People quite often overestimate their wealth, but they have lots of wealth. There's lots of families like that. There's 22.5 million millionaires and billionaires in America. And they want people to date toward the money, and they want people to think of things in terms of money, okay, for the most part as a group. And they kind of came together in corporate partnerships and social clubs and gentlemen's clubs and other groups to try to, make that the case, especially behind the scenes. It's all over TikTok, why I'm right. Okay, so we disagree about what causes rape. Some people say rape is about control, and that sets the stage for them to, come together as feminists, white supremacists, Jewish supremacists, LGBT supremacists, okay, and other rich people to come together and say, oh, if that's what it's about, we're going to teach them and we're going to control sexual behavior more. And you see all these corporations talking about sexual energy and controlling sexual power and so on and so forth. Okay, and exerting sexual power rather. So we disagree about what good dating judgment is, right? Martin Luther King, the content of the character, right? Focus, moral intensity in the top martial arts being greater than any arguments you ever heard of, certainly greater than these churches with all their corruption and all their failure to make a decent planet and so on and so forth. And there's billions of Christians. So we have a disagreement about what good dating judgment is, and that has implications on the moral order, the spiritual order, the social order, who dates who, what have you. It's also a disagreement on the root causes of criminal behavior, right? Did they set them up to be criminals? Is it like the Frankenstein effect, right? Where they created the monster, or are these people just related to, for example, poor white people and indigenous people and colored people, what have you, who have mental illnesses and they just happen to end up there, and the guys who are kind of, house minorities, if you will, that they don't have the mental illnesses magically and they end up, with more money and so on and so forth. So what causes criminal behavior? Is the house one, field one, paradigm accurate for the most part? And things like this. So we have a disagreement there. And point number 5, we have a disagreement in regards to whether people who are criminals and others, feel comfortable taking my side. So why aren't they rallying to me? I say, well, you're coercing them. You're pressuring them. You're suppressing my videos. And they want to pretend that they're not. They want to pretend that social media isn't controlled. They want to pretend that people aren't threatened by the CIA and the government and so on and so forth, right? Every gang, for example, knows that if they take my side, they're going to get searched more. They're going to get, they're going to get persecuted more. And a lot of them don't know how to make money other than being a criminal. So a lot of them are career criminals. So if the government cracks down on them, they go homeless, and they don't feel comfortable taking my side for that reason, and they don't want to live a harder life than they already live. And these people disagree with me about that, and they say that that's not the case. They might say there's some truth to that, but they'll come up with some BS argument that's hyper-conservative or something that simply isn't logical. And I'm not a Democrat or Republican or Libertarian, but by now you should know that I'm right. And that has implications on these governing class families. When we look at them very carefully, no offense to anybody, a lot of times they look like very shady businessmen. When we look at the statistics, it lines up with the look that they have and the way about them. And it says, that 1 in 5 CEOs or so, 1 in 4, 1 in 5 are said to be psychopaths. How many of them are sociopaths and narcissists and just assholes and easily agitated and just unfair people and so on and so forth? So it paints a strong picture of the governing class's kind of collective psychosis and psychotic agenda, their hyper egotistical agenda that has been trampling on people and poor people and people with mental disabilities and people who are disabled and people of color and poor white people and so on and so forth. Okay, they disagree with me about these things and whether something should be done. And there's a spectrum of disagreement. Some of them might even concede every single point here. But they don't agree with the war on poverty plan, which is just wealth taxes. It's also I decided to also call it the cost-effective plan, which is affordable wealth taxes. When you think about it, there's 22.5 million millionaires and billionaires, okay? And there's 700,000 homeless people, okay? And you can tax them over a period of time, and a lot of these people are getting richer. Many of them are getting richer, so they can easily afford wealth taxes, okay? Wealth taxes to build tiny homes, wealth taxes to create food programs. They can afford it easily. We can also pass vice taxes. So the wealthy aren't the only ones being taxed, but the people who, drink too much, the people who smoke too much, right? If they smoke and drink just a little bit, the new tax is 5% won't affect them very much. If they do a lot, they're probably going to be a burden on the system, right? And therefore, it's logical for them to pay these taxes as a group. So there's disagreements here, and I think that it boils down to a disagreement between good and evil. A disagreement about whether you should torture the poor or whether you should help them. A disagreement about whether, you should build families based on true consent, not the consent, but a prosent, a true understanding of who you should date and why, a true scale. Whether you should covertly drug people so they can't judge effectively, especially when dating, or whether you should keep them informed and give them the optimum and preferable training that they need to truly analyze the situation with a fair mind and truly give everyone a fair shake. Both the left and the right and the middle, they all have it wrong. They all have it wrong on this issue. Democratic dating is wrong. Republican dating is wrong. Libertarian dating is wrong. Cult dating is wrong. Church dating, mosque, synagogue, they all have it wrong. No offense to anybody. what is right is universal, pinpoint, and moral precision. And I'm willing to debate you on these topics. All these topics require a long explanation. I have hundreds, if not thousands of videos on these topics, okay? And I have 15,000 videos or so altogether. So you can imagine that I'm going to have to wrap this video up soon. But if you want to debate me on any of these topics, I've been talking about it for years. I've been studying it for years. I have thousands of sources. I'm willing and ready to debate, especially if they don't sabotage me to the extreme before, during, and after the debate. Thank you.